Hey guys, welcome to the Vortex. I am in Detroit, Michigan. That's where I live, and it is so cold. It has been freezing. Like we're talking like -1, 0 degrees, whatever, and wind chill -25. My kids have been out of school, and I just had this thought. I just wanted to share with you guys about like I just didn't quite realize how important our circadian rhythm was. Like I talk a lot about being one with the earth and of the earth, and like everything is a mirror for you. I cannot stress to you enough how much that has been made like more abundantly clear for me this week. Like I have not been sleeping. I have not been getting out of bed. I've been barely walking. Like I go to the gym and I don't know. It just really highlighted this fact for me of like, we are the earth. We live in cycles and patterns and we rely on the sun and the seasons to like really move our body. And that disconnect has been created because we just haven't been living that life. And yeah, like we are Earth. And I was asked on a podcast recently, like, oh, if you think aliens exist, like, where are they or what are they doing? And it was like, I just don't think they care. Like they don't care about us because we are the Earth. We are of the Earth. And so I just wanted to like drop that in this morning and just kind of like, I don't know, just give you that little tidbit of information. Like you are of the Earth. You cycle in seasons, you cycle in breath, like you cycle in your cycle, like the moon, the sun, the stars, all of it is a cycle, and you are no different. You are not separate from that. So I love talking about this kind of stuff. I love talking about the woo-woo, the spirituality. I love like incorporating this in your business, in your life, like that discovery of who you are and like getting that logic out of the way and yeah, just moving as a match for your desires and pulling that frequency down from the field. So that's my tidbit of wisdom for you today. We have a beautiful guest, so we'll get into it. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Vortex. I'm your host, Kathleen Pitt. I have a beautiful guest here with you to share her story of resilience, spirituality, and how she brings that into her business. My guest today is Emily Adams. She is a beautiful, seasoned leadership development expert, holistic coach, and transformational speaker. She helps dedicate her career to cultivating leaders, optimizing business operations, and driving sustainable growth, which is a lot of fancy words to tell me that she works really hard in business. But I want to get down into the nitty-gritty of it. Emily, welcome to the Vortex.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be here and to have this conversation.
Okay, well, don't thank me yet. We'll see how it goes.
It's already
Beautiful.
going great.
Yeah. So, okay, so I'm sure, I don't know if you know much about me. I know my listeners do, but like I left the medical career to do business coaching to really be in my soul mission and purpose, et cetera, et cetera. So when I get somebody's resume in front of me, I like to call them that, the resume in front of me, it looks like this. I'm like, okay, straighten up. Like, whoo, they got some stuff under their belt. They know what they're doing. Like Kathleen, pretend like you know what you're doing. And I just love that too, because I love seeing like for me, it was like nursing was just such like a direct traditional path that like I knew, okay, if I do this, I know I'll get a paycheck. If I do this, I know that I'll be successful. Like I have to be at least some measure of success. But to see this, I'm always so inspired by that because it's like, damn, like there really are women out there kicking ass, doing business, like leading leaders, because leaders need leaders, people need people, and you've been doing it. So let's talk about that. You left well, oh sorry, I'm talking a lot, but let's go back. You were born and raised in an Amish community, left at 17, and then you have this whole beautiful career in front of you. Like how was that transition? Because I imagine in the Amish that would not compute, right?
No, and I
Right.
always tell everyone, like, if you don't think you can be a leader, let me be the example that anyone can be a leader. It
Sure.
is a
Yeah.
choice. Because growing up, like Amish were the women in the Amish culture are not heard, seen, or respected. You are there to have babies, be a mom, be a stay-at-home wife, and take care of the husband. Like you are the server, no matter what.
Sure. Yeah.
And leadership is not something that they teach women or that they teach their young girls at all. And it's very much male dominant.
Yeah.
So transitioning out of that and leaving at 17, it was this huge culture shock because I always thought I was going to leave and go build my career. I had no idea what building a career looked like.
I know.
Fast
Where are the
forward,
bricks? Yeah.
yeah, fast forward, I get pregnant at 18, and the Amish has zero sex education. You'll appreciate this as a primary or previous nurse
Yeah.
practitioner.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have zero sex education, so I didn't even know I was pregnant. I
Yeah.
had a coworker tell me like, it looks like you're pregnant. I was like, no, like that can't be. I'm not going to ever be a mom. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
fast
Wait, were you
forward.
just like having sex and like didn't know that that was the outcome, which is totally fine. I imagine that's kind of how the education works. But I'm just
That
curious.
is how the education, like, I
Okay.
had no idea how someone got pregnant.
Okay. Wow. Wow. What a shock.
Yeah, and also in the culture, like you don't have technology. I had zero
Right.
technology growing up. Like there was no internet, there was no books were very filtered on what you read, and seen and heard. But I
Yeah.
knew I had this, I always knew I didn't fit in. Like that was the end all. And I knew at a very young age, like this is not for me. At 16, I lost my best friend in a buggy accident and she passed away. And that was the pivotal moment of being like, okay, this is not going to cut it. Like, I got
Yeah.
to get out. So, fast forward, I left, went through an abusive marriage after I found out I was pregnant.
Hmm.
And that propelled me into going to get my degree, graduated from Purdue in business. And meanwhile, I was in the automotive industry. And that was the only industry that would really hire me and pay me good until I actually got a GED because I only had a sixth grade education. The Amish don't
Oh, sure,
go
sure.
to, this higher education. Fast
Yeah.
forward, built my career, and then I pivoted and went into the software world for a little bit. And then 2019 had a massive spiritual awakening
Yeah.
and realized, man, there is a lot that I don't understand. Went down this spiritual rabbit hole of healing, 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 like all the things, you
Yeah.
name it, astrology, human design, plant medicine, stack them up.
Yeah. I know. Wait, give
Um,
me more. Give me more.
yeah,
What else you got? I'm ready.
it's a cycle. But
Can relate.
fast forward, then it was like me and my business partner, I have a business partner, we met in automotive industry and we had, she also went through a spiritual awakening. And we were like, man, if leaders truly understood how to lead themselves and how to lead humans instead of numbers and employees, and also
Hmm.
understood cost savings and operations, the business would be unstoppable. So
Yeah.
that's how our business transformative leadership was born.
Amazing. Yeah. That's so true. Like that number. So my husband works in the automotive industry. Like I live in Detroit, right? And so that's always something that comes up. He's like, I got this on my like cost savings, cost savings, cost savings. And I said, okay, that's great. Like I love that. But like you need to go talk to him. Like you need to go network. You need to go this, you need to go that, because I agree. Like that's beautiful. It's great to show like how impactful you are and how effective. But the truth is like people want people, like leaders want leaders. Like we just need that example of like how to lead ourselves and create those like connections and communities. And you don't know this, but at the beginning of this podcast, I recorded my intro and like then you came on and we're starting this conversation. But like my intro today was all talking about like how we are like of the earth. Like one of the biggest things right now that's taught me that it's 0 degrees outside is that I am more dependent on this my circadian rhythm than I ever thought it was possible, because I'm just like the curtains are closed, like I'm not going outside for my daily walk, like I'm just like I'm waking up in the middle of the night with insomnia, like all this stuff. And it's like we are of the earth, we are connected, we are networked, we are community. And the moment that we deny that within ourselves, it shows up in all areas of life. So like I'm speaking about it from just a human existing point, but like to your point, it also, if you are an effective leader, it means creating those connections, creating that community, being that impactful person to like be a human, basically, right?
Yes, all of that.
Yeah, 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 all that, boom. I think like so let's talk a little bit about like what that looks like. What does that mean to be that human leader and I know we talked a little bit about masculine and feminine energy before. How does that show up in your leadership? How do you show people to lead effectively that way? And like, what is the difference that you've noted within your life and that of your clients' lives?
So one thing I will start by saying is it's all how deeply you know yourself. And
Hmm.
I always tell my clients, the more you can see yourself, the more you can see your team. The more you can listen to yourself, the more you can listen to your team. Everything is an awareness. And that really starts with your development of yourself. You cannot see someone's greatness unless you see your greatness in yourself. And in all those areas. And so coming from a human perspective, at the end of the day, regardless of how big of a business you have, your employees that you have, we are all humans and they all want respect. They want to be listened, they want to be heard. And as a leader, you get to cultivate that. And it's interesting because now the industries are starting to go to more of a human-centric perspective. I call that just being a leader that understands humans versus employees.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's being
Someone
thrown
had to
around
make
like,
that
oh, let's
diagram,
be
sis.
holistic.
Yeah.
No, we should have been holistic a long time ago because we're all humans. And as leaders, and when we work with clients, we always go back to how are you leading yourself first? That's the
Right.
very first question. How are you leading yourself first? And what is the gap? Because we all have gaps, we all have strengths, we all have opportunities for growth. It doesn't matter what level you are at, and it will always be that way. If you are in
Speak for
this
yourself.
work, yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's so true. Well, I don't know, Emily. I'm doing pretty good. I'm just kidding. No,
And
it's
you know, there are
100%
and there
true.
are
Every
times,
day, every day.
yeah, and there are times to grow and expand, and there are times to sustain.
Yeah.
Like, that can also get into a very addictive cycle as well. So a lot of times when we look at leaders and they want to work and they want to like, hey, I have this gap on my communication, like what is the gap? Where do we go? And then we do a lot of embodiment or practice sessions. You
Okay.
get to embody that work on a daily basis. We're going to give you life work and you get to practice this on us every single day. Because if you come to us and you just want to consume content or just consume coaching, we are not the people for you
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
want you to show up, practice it. It's like going to the gym, putting in the reps, and then not putting the reps in and still expecting the results.
Oh yeah. So okay, I have a question. So last night I actually did this embodiment. This piece of hair is really bothering me. There it goes. I did this embodiment session with a like feminine archetype coach. And so this embodiment session was all about like intuitively like loving yourself and moving your body and like getting in your body and breath work and stuff like that. And I was like, dang, this is kind of sexy. Like I don't what like this is different embodiment work than I've done before. So what's your embodiment work? Because I imagine it's not that, which is totally cool. We need so many different types, but like, what do you mean when you say embodiment work? Like, what are some examples that people can use to like embody that self-leadership, embody that sense of propriety, and develop that self-trust?
So the biggest thing I would say is look at the characteristics you get to develop. So as a leader, say if you're trying to embody being a better communicator,
Hmm.
some of that work is going to be one, awareness around your communication.
Sure.
Two, showing up and communicating the way you would communicate if you were a great communicator. And three, it's also doing those mindset shifts, doing the inner work. And a lot of the inner work doesn't just happen in your mind, but also happens in a spiritual realm. We don't
Sure.
push religion, but we do believe in like a higher perspective. Whatever your beliefs are, there is always something bigger and higher version. So to be
Mhm.
able to tap into that and some of that embodiment work. So if you're really like masculine, we got to get all this shit done real quick and you need to shift into the feminine, we're going to ask the embodiment work is going to be to slow down, take some breaths, and it's going to be tap into more of your feminine side. That's going to look differently for every single person
Sure.
because my feminine side versus my business partner's feminine side is very different. I am not going to get into my feminine energy by cooking. No, thank you. But ask me to be creative and write something and just free write. I love that. That's
Okay.
very feminine for me. So it's really understanding the client and what's feminine characteristic and what's masculine for them. We've also seen where they're very feminine, but will not do the masking and they're like, ooh, that's gross. Okay, now we get to set some goals and some structure to help you embody that on a daily basis. This is what you're going to do. These are the things you get to do, and then check back in.
Yeah, that's so cool. Actually, I've never thought about it that way, that everyone has a different way to get into their masculine and feminine, or like what triggers them to be into that
Yeah.
state of energy. And so like that's I also wasn't expecting you to say that you had people that were deeply in their feminine moving to their masculine, because I feel like it's so the opposite. But I mean, like what would you say the ratio is like for leaders coming to you? Like, are they mostly in their masculine or mostly in their feminine?
So we don't work industry specific and we work with a lot of different coaches, healers, authors. I would say more the small business owners, especially if they identify as a healer or a coach that does healing work, they're going to be more on their feminine side.
100%.
And then the other side is going to be more masculine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it's interesting because, especially in the spiritual business side, the spiritual community has done a very interesting way of saying, oh, stay in the flow. And it's this, just being in your feminine. You get to be balanced. You get to have both.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I've been in my masculine for years, right? A nurse practitioner, two kids before the age of 30, moving all the time. It was like crazy how much I was in my masculine. And then this last year, I did my deep dive into my feminine, and it was like, whoa, holy shit. Like I'm psychic. I speak light language. I'm all about creative flow. Like I can really tap in. And now I find like I'm really afraid to go in that masculine, of like the fear of getting back into those repeating patterns, right? And that's something that I've been consciously working on and doing that embodiment work. It's like, it's not that one is better than the other, right? It's that they need to work together. That needs to be, we talk a lot about masculine and feminine energy as being like outside of us, like male, female, not true, right? Like we have
Yeah.
male, female outside, masculine, feminine energy outside union. But you get to achieve union within yourself. Like you get to achieve that equilibrium and like how divine, like when you do that, I'm sure you have, it's always a balance, right? You're never perfect every day. But the moment when your masculine and feminine is united internally, woo, doesn't that feel so good? It's like, holy shit, this is what I mean. This is a sweet spot.
Yes, 100%. And the more that you practice it and you get into alignment with it, the more you realize how easy life really is.
Yeah, it actually gets to be so easy, so good, so great. So let's talk about your spiritual awakening. Like, what did that look like for you? I mean, you said you like consumed a lot of topics. Like, were you married at the time? Like, you had kids, right? So, how, like, I mean, this is like, I feel like a spiritual awakening for most women. It's like a bomb going off because it really kind of like rattles everything that you thought you knew. And as you're digesting this information, everybody around you is like, what the fuck is going on? And you're like, I don't know. Give me a minute.
Yeah, and you explained it very well, like a bomb going off.
Yeah.
And I was not married at the time, but I do have two boys. And it was very, very interesting to see as I went through a spiritual awakening and I started doing all this healing. And actually, meditation was the tool that propelled me into very much the awakening states. I did
Mm.
this 21-day challenge during COVID for Deepak Chopra, and that really woke me up. 2019 was kind of the start of it, and then 2020 it really expanded. And then I
Yeah,
went
what
into
else were you
this
gonna
like,
do?
yeah,
I'll dive in this one.
went into this deep dive of all these tools, meditation, astrology, all the self-development courses that I could possibly consume, I consumed. And if you are going through this right now, please know that you don't have to consume all the things and just start embodying it and watch what happens because the amount of consumption, I think I figured up and I had spent almost 300 grand in self-development and
Jesus
different
Christ, girl.
courses, different coaches, but it was like this, and also that was a habit and a pattern of
Yeah,
I have to invest money to grow. That was a story.
sure.
So, realizing that and seeing that, but yeah, it was like a bomb went off and everything shifted, everything opened up, my eyes opened up, and I was like, oh my goodness, like now I've got to go reprogram my boys the way that I raised them because my parenting shifted completely. And
Yeah.
I was like, I started seeing their patterns that I had parented them to be. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like crazy. So the cool thing though, as parents, when you grow and evolve, you cannot explain it, but your children do the same thing.
Yes, I love that you mentioned that. There's so much there to unpack, right? Because, like, okay, so for me, when my bomb went off, it was like, okay, amazing. This is great. This is the most powerful information. And I really did, I thought I did an okay job of like just not trying to get like my husband on board. Like I was just like observe and like just he was just wanting to see me happy. He's a great example of divine masculine of just like, okay, whatever, like whatever you want, I love you. But it was this thing of like I had this panic of like, holy shit, have I messed up my kids? Have I like completely screwed them for life? Like I probably have, obviously that like I've been doing it all wrong. And then it's like even before you implement those patterns, you change that subconscious rewiring. Even before you like are very deliberate about changing the pattern for them, they just go with you. They just are
Yeah.
they are such a mirror. Like I think everybody and everything is a mirror of your internal world. It's just that kids share your DNA. And so there's something about like epigenetics and that mirroring that occurs where like when you find internal peace, when you heal, like I've healed generations back of wounding, ancestral trauma. My mother wound was so deep and big, and like, and her mother wound was so deep and big, and my grandmother's wound, was so deep and big. So I've healed so much of that from my lineage. And almost immediately, as I'm like, we're talking about embodiment work, like as I'm doing breath work and crying and journaling and burning it and all this stuff, like the next day, my children are like happier, healthier, like calm, giving me hugs and kisses for no reason. It was like, what the fuck? Like they just cannot explain that, but it does. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I've had a couple other moms say the same thing. Like they're just such a divine mirror.
Yeah, it was interesting because as I tapped into like ancestor stuff, my youngest would come to me and was like, "Oh, so I think I could tap into ancestor stuff." And I was like, "Wait, you're literally a teenager and you think you know how to do this? Like, how? What?" And then we started having the conversation and totally like 100%.
Totally.
Like, because I have not limited them in the way that they're thinking and the way they get to believe and they
Mhm.
choose. And one is very, very spiritual, and the other one tends to go the religious routes.
Yeah. You can't, how's that for you, Emily? I can see the
So,
trauma, like, ugh. And let me
so be
preface, I didn't say this at the beginning. I was not raised Amish. I was raised very Catholic. And so it was very Catholic. I wore lace on my head when I walked in the church. We went to church 3 or 4 times a week, like confession, the rosary when we were in car trips type of thing. So not Amish. I was homeschooled until I was sixth grade. So it was when sixth grade, the information started to come up. So I empathize with you. So I have that a little bit too. Like when you say like, so how's the religious thing going? Like, I get it. It can be stifling.
and the interesting thing is having him choose this path has really helped me grow and also see the wounding in a different light, right? And
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to heal so much through religious trauma and the religion and all that. And my youngest son actually had told me one day, I made their comment of, I'm like, religion is so stupid. I didn't say this in front of my oldest, but my youngest looks at me and goes, actually, mom, it's not. If you think about it, people need leaders and they need to be led. And so this is their way of feeling safe to be led into something. They need structure, they need control. And I was like, oh, what a perception shift.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
so
kid. What was he like 6? Emily, he didn't say that. I'm just kidding.
but he
I
really,
believe you.
he had like a different perception. And so when I talked to my oldest about religion and he just randomly decided to start going to church.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happened? And he was like, well, my friends at college go and he's doing early college and he was like, and it's fun. He loves the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
But
That's sweet.
when I ask him about his beliefs about God and like source and universe, like what those are, it is very much similar to the way I believe, just in different words.
Sure. I think like, I mean, we could talk about religion for a while and like religious trauma but I like talking about it because I think like yeah, I work with spiritual people as well. In the spiritual world, it is condemned, and I don't blame them. There's no hate. I don't go to church. I'm not very religious. I'm obviously very spiritual. But there's again, it's the unity piece. Like there's got to be like a common ground. I believe when you were saying that, the first thing I thought was like, oh yeah, church is the masculine structure. Like it is the place for the feminine and like the creativity of humanity to flow through. It's just unfortunate that in some instances that masculine structure is not nurturing the woman. There's like a wounded masculine. I guess what I'm trying to say is like the church right now is kind of in a wounded masculine state, but not always. It's not always going to be that way, and it's not like that for everyone. But yeah, I guess I don't know. That's such a beautiful perspective that your children have, and their ability to zoom out, which I'm sure has been nurtured by you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful perception, and also to be able to also see people going into church all have different intentions too. Like I have friends that go to church and they have different intentions when they go to church.
Yeah.
And to be able to respect that and then, mutual respect. I'm not going to go to church, but I'm daily connected moment to moment with God, source, who my source is.
Yeah. So what do you say? I say like I usually just use like a full blanket. I'm like God, source, universe, quantum, whatever you want to call it. That's what I kind of say. Is that what you say?
Yes, and I also believe though that sometimes the words that we use maybe it doesn't need a word, right? I don't believe it's a gender. And it's very much like, for me, it's a very much an energetic feeling. Like I can really tap into it. And it was something that, because at one point I was like, God's not real. I'm just going to burn in hell, because that is what I was programmed. If I left the Amish culture, the programming was you were going to burn in hell. That was the
Yeah.
programming. And so I
What
was
a
like, well,
powerful program. God damn.
I was like, might as well go live my best life and then burn in hell. Like, who knows if it's true or not?
Yeah. I
But
want
then
a cell phone. I want McDonald's. I'm just kidding. It probably wasn't your driving force, but that is where I would be. I do
it's
not
not
care if I
McDonald's.
burn in hell. I swear I just want a French fry.
Uh,
That has got to be some like deep, deep subconscious programming that I was gonna say that too when you were talking about your children, like when you had your spiritual awakening, they were still in a formative age, but you had developed some platform and foundation there too. But like, yeah, just having that perspective to like zoom out and say, like, actually, I'm gonna change, and then watching them shift with you, like so profound. So like how do you bring this spirituality into business as much? Or is it do you operate like how was it shifting your business, I guess, from that space of not having a spiritual awakening and then into a spiritual awakening? Do you feel like it changed a lot of your what am I trying to say? Like the mundane activities, the logistics part of it, or no, you kind of that kind of you had like a really good foundation in that.
I feel like what it changed the most for me was the intuition parts. And so being very intuitive and being able to trust my intuition the most.
Yeah.
And also standing in my authenticity as a business owner. I am by human design, I'm a manifester, 4/6 profile. So I operate very differently than a lot of business owners.
Mm.
And being able to, and
Can you
human
explain
design was
that? Why?
so as human design, as a manifester, the way I work is very much sprints.
Okay.
And so I will work in a sprint and take a break. That sprint could be 21 days straight. That sprint could be 4 days straight. But whatever that sprint is I honor it. And then when I start to feel myself get into a place of like being tired or my energy drops, I'm like, okay, time out. I need rest. And so I
Mm.
don't care if the day is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm taking the rest.
Off
Like
I
it
go.
is what it is.
Yeah.
And the human design tool is probably one of the biggest ones we have leaders also look like, have the awareness of what your design type is.
Mm.
And we also want the awareness of what your design type is working with you, because if you're a reflector, it's going to be a completely different game changer.
Oh my
My
gosh.
business
Yeah.
partner is a projector. I'm a manifester. We work very differently.
Yeah.
And so I feel like having that understanding from a spiritual aspect is knowing we are all divine humans. We are all artists of our own business. And I used to give very much, hey, do this, because I'm a manifester. I initiate a lot and I could initiate people for their business. But
Mhm.
now I have taken that back and I don't want to do that to any business. Instead, I want to teach them and guide them what feels in alignment for them for their business. Because when I'm not in
Yes.
their business, they can still grow their business and it still feels good and it still feels aligned. So
Yes.
I think like this is the biggest thing that I see just in the coaching industry is like follow this strategy, follow this. No,
No.
you follow what you get to do, and you
Yeah.
get to find someone to like teach you the strategy that fits for you and your human.
Yeah, like I'm so grateful. The way I got into business was way different. Like I basically heard light language and my body like had a full reaction and I was like, holy shit, like what's light language? I didn't know. And I like then started on this like I was like, oh, I'm meant to be doing XYZ. And the woman who spoke light language was actually my business mentor as well. And she taught me how to start that way, right? It was like about like don't follow a strategy, don't buy another course, you don't need a digital design expert, you don't need to you just need to like listen to your heart and move as aligned. Like tune into that highest version of you, because obviously I work in the quantum. So tune into that quantum version of you. What are they doing? How are they acting? What is the frequency that they're embodying? And then move as a match for that. And I was like, that's it. She was like, that's it. And I was like, okay. And then I just executed that, right? And so now I'm a year deep into the industry and I'm realizing like, oh my God, like thank God I found that one first because it is a toxic, like I don't want to say toxic. The people aren't toxic. They're just doing the best they can. Like everyone's on their own path to their outcome. Like the universe provides energetic portals for entry all the time. But if I had started out like in a different pace in that like follow XYZ strategy, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. I mean, it would have just been like one burnout to the other. I mean, I probably wouldn't have done it, right? Because then I wouldn't have felt the need or the pull or the urge to go into this space. But yeah, I just love that you're teaching that. And I love that that is, I feel like that's making, I don't want to say a comeback, but it's making a presence. Like it's making itself be known like,
Yep.
hey, everybody, pump the fucking brakes. Like you actually just get to like expand as large as you let yourself because there are no limitations. And so just like lean into that expansion, listen to your heart and like move. Just
Yeah.
do that.
100%. And I feel like if more people understood that, there would be less of like all this constant consuming and this cycle of, and also the cycle of healing. Like I see that all the time. Well, I'm not healed yet. Is that the story you're going to continue to tell yourself? And that's going to be your story until
That's
you
an easy
change it.
crutch.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I did it yesterday. I tell you what, I actually had, it's so funny you said that. Like I've been kind of in a funk because it's like 0 degrees and it's gray and I'm like, look, I cannot wait to go to Miami tomorrow. And I'm with a mentor now and I was doing this Akashic. She's like, come on, we got to figure out how to like shift you. Like, what do you need to do? Go for a walk today, put your phone down, whatever you got to do, just like get yourself into gear. I was like, you know what? I've been ignoring like my meditations for a week. Why? I don't know. That's how I literally make all my business decisions. Why am I doing that? So I did this Akashic record meditation, got myself into the records, and I said, what do I need to do to heal myself? What do I need to do to heal myself? I need to heal myself to lead, show me the way. And my guides, they're like insane. They're like always like, they just come up and like punch me in the face. Like I swear that's what they do. And I said, what do I need to know? What do I need to do to heal? To lead. I need to heal to lead. And he said, no, you don't. You need to lead to heal. Go.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, okay, fine, fine.
But and that's also a reflection of how you can tap into that, and which is so powerful to be able to tap into that resources at any point in time
Yeah,
and to be able to be like, oh, I don't need to heal more. I don't need to go listen to this video or this podcast or this book or whatever it is.
yeah.
I get to lead to heal. It's in the action.
Yeah, because that cycle of healing, like, am I going to be good enough? Or I don't have, I'm taking a client through this right now. I love her. I cannot like. I have some clients. I love all my clients. Trust me. Like they're all soul aligned. But there's some that I know that like, we were destined to work together. Like there's no one else. Like she's mine. I'm hers. Like I'm the mirror. We were meant to find each other. I think that about all my clients. But there's some where it's like, this is so fucking powerful. And she is like in this space right now. She's like, well, I can't do it because I got to work out and I can't get my workouts together. And my kids are chaos and my husband in this. And I said, no, 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 no. It is all you. Like you got to take some deep breaths here, sis. She's like, right, right, okay.
Yeah, it's and I always say like it always comes back to instead of focusing of like all the chaos because as a manifester, we are very chaotic and we work very chaotic. And I
Mhm.
understand chaos. And then on the astrology side, I'm also Pisces Sun, a Scorpio rising with a lot of
Mhm.
water. So the
Yeah,
chaos is always there. But I always go back to when you stay grounded and you can lead yourself in that way, and you can also go back to, okay, the chaos is there, but what would I love?
yeah,
And then focusing on what you would love instead of the chaos, because as soon as we focus on well, as soon as we shift on what we focus, everything shifts.
100%. I feel like I say 100% on this podcast so much, but I just love all my guests. Okay, so with all that water in your chart, like how is your intuition? Like that is the biggest thing I got from astrology. Is like I don't have, by the way, I have like two water signs in my chart. Like that's it. I have so much Capricorn. So I'm a Virgo sun, but then everything else is like Capricorn and Leo, which is perfect for business. Like the Virgo like ties it all together. But when I got my reading done by my friend, she's like, "Girl, you have like no water." And they're like in like minuscule like placements. She's like, "You have like no water. How are you this intuitive?" I said, "I don't know. You tell me." Like you're doing the chart. And it was like, oh, I had so many past lives of being psychic that it's just like coming forward. But what about you? Like your intuition, your psychic abilities, like have they awoken? I know you said you're leading your business with intuition, but like let's get into the gritty. Like psychic. Are you psychic or like have you had that? Do you use it in your business or what's that going on?
100%. And I would also say you don't need a lot of water sign to be intuitive and to be psychic. Anybody and everybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's whether you trust yourself enough to go there.
Hey, case in point. Yeah.
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 But as a water sign, one of the biggest challenges I will tell you is we have especially Pisces, we have the ability to swim in a multiple different directions.
Mm,
So it's always figuring out where I'm going to put my energy and focusing my energy there. And from an intuition and like psychic ability, yes, it is very, very strong for me. I just know things that I know things. I
yeah.
can look at somebody and be like, boom, 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 boom. I
Hmm.
can go into a client session and within 15 minutes, I know exactly like what to ask, where to go. And people, they've asked me before, like, how did you know? I said, I just know. And I always record the sessions because I don't remember what I channel through.
Yeah.
And whether I'm working with a coach or I'm working with a corporation, I use the same process.
Yeah, isn't that wild? Like I have like a for me, I have like a near photographic memory. So if you could just tell me like where I was sitting when I read that book, like in college, I'll tell you everything that I read, right? So when I started like being psychic, I was like, I don't remember. I don't remember. Was that me? Was I like disassociating? But no, it's a term. It's called psychic amnesia for those of you listening. It's just that it's not actually our thoughts. It's our channel, like we're the vessel that the information flows through. So it makes sense that it's not recorded in your brain, right?
Yeah, probably one of my favorite memories when my abilities really started to come online, I was running and I was running to shamanic drums, like just drums. And all of a sudden I had this full
Hardcore.
body download of like the warrior. Like I was a warrior in this,
Mm.
like all this information come through. And I came back from running and I remember just crying. And this amount of power of like feminine power had just like unlocked. And
Mm.
I voice messaged one of my friends. I'm like, am I going crazy? Do I need to go get locked up or something?
Yes. I know.
But the cool thing is when you have those experiences and you can embody that and you can trust that and integrate it, it's so freaking powerful. It's so powerful.
Yeah, like that. I think it's like the radical, it's like what you're talking about leadership, right? It's radical self-trust in all areas of your life. It's about leading yourself through that uncertainty, leading your company, leading your business, leading everything. Like I trust myself enough and I know myself enough that this is just what it is. Like I just
Yeah.
received downloads. I'm just psychic. I can see your next move. Like expansion codes are like deep within me. Like that self-trust is what builds businesses, right? It's not about the strategy. It's not about the time spent. It's not about the emails you send out or like XYZ. It's about treating people as humans, like going back to your original point, treating people as humans, developing that self-trust within them and just allowing like whatever flows through to flow through. And if you are listening and you don't really like resonate with the term psychic, who gives a shit? Call it intuition, call it like you're the smartest person in the room. I don't care, but it's all about like stepping into that leadership and trust of yourself.
Absolutely 100%.
100%. I'm going to just put it's going to be the Vortex 100%. It's going to be my new podcast title. I thought the last podcast, I was like, geez, I'm saying 100% a lot of times, but I just completely agree. What are you going to do if you completely agree? 100%. So who's your, like, you say you work with corporations too. Do you prefer to work with individuals or corporations?
I prefer to work with anyone that's ready to grow and evolve. Doesn't matter
Mm,
your title, it doesn't matter where you're at. It's interesting because we also worked with some authors to take their book and make it into a course for them, like help them
mm,
structure it out.
yeah.
And that was a very creative process that I enjoyed. So I always say, if you're ready to grow and evolve and expand, and my approach is very direct and to the point and no bullshit, come along for the ride.
Come along. We're going to get you to step into it. Do you still talk to the Amish community that you left behind?
So my parents are still Amish,
Okay.
and my two brothers are still Amish. So yeah, we talk. We kind of agree to disagree. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a kind of a mutual respect, and a lot of that is for my boys' sake because they want to have a relationship with my parents. But yeah, that's
I didn't
that's
know.
the main.
I'm just asking. I didn't know if like you were allowed to talk, but it's, good that you have a relationship.
Yeah, for a while you go through the stint of like shunning process, so you're completely cut off for a long time.
Yeah.
And then that kind of transitions and life happens and they're like, okay, now that you have kids, I would like for you to come back. And
Yeah.
then it becomes this, and you can come back, but you need to dress like this way. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
gonna come
Like
back as myself.
my
You
terms.
either like it or you don't. So
Yeah, I know. That's, I mean, like, again, not Amish, super Catholic, similar shit. Like, it's like, okay, well, you can either like talk to me or not. And like, it actually gets to be my choice now. So kudos to you. Like, I know, like, you were 17, your frontal lobe wasn't developed, but you knew, like, you knew like where your next steps were, and this wasn't it. And like, this was just not the path that you were meant to walk. And you very clearly created your own path, like discovered your own self, like went through. I always talk about like our soul contracts, our soul mission. Like you chose to be born in that family. You already knew that you were going to leave before you were born, like in some way. Like if you're listening now and you're like facing whatever situation, just remember that truly and truthfully, everything is going to work out for your benefit or is working out for your benefit in a plan that you can't see right now. Like you can't, even you, Emily, even me, like we can't see even the far greater impact and reach and the ripple effect of change that we're creating just by having these conversations, just by showing up in our leadership, in our businesses, showing people that it can be done differently. And there is a better way. There's a better way than any burnout, any strategy, anything that makes us less than the humans that we are. 100%, right?
agreed, agreed.
Agreed. All right. This has been so amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you? How can they work with you? Like, give us a little bit of where you're at on the internet and what you're working on right now.
On all my platforms, I'm under Emily Adams. I am probably the most active on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Threads. It's a little
Okay.
unfiltered over on the Thread side.
Yes.
So, and I always say my DMs are open, and you can go to my website, transformativeleadershipllc.com. Like, book a call if you know you're ready to work and expand, or if you're just curious.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And I'll have all of your links like linked in the show notes, a little bit of bio about who you are. And I just can't wait to get this out to the world. So thanks very much. Thanks so much for joining us today, Emily.
Thank you.
Have a good day.